Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. And I'm so excited. We have Dr. Michelle Sands here, and we are talking all about women's hormones, your health, and how to take your body to the next level. So, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's
You can
start
start
with
over.
talking about hormones because I think that is the biggest thing on the radar right now. I know that I'm taking bioidentical hormones. I take a low dose of all three. I take progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. I take all three of bioidentical. Let's say that someone who is starting to feel a little bit off. First of all, what are they going to notice when their hormones are off? Some of the things that are kind of like, okay, if you're feeling this, red flag, we need to check your hormones. Let's start there.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because a lot of times things can be just like looked at as something else, or you might think because you're busy or you have young children or you're maybe not eating as good as you used to. So you might blame yourself for a lot of the symptoms at first. One of the most common early symptoms is difficulty sleeping and anxiety. That is usually due to the loss of progesterone, which is generally the first hormone that declines. Progesterone is our calming hormone. It's closely related to the neurotransmitter GABA. And so progesterone helps us be calm, helps us be kind of relaxed, helps us kind of drift off to sleep. And when our progesterone goes down, we start to have these mood fluctuations. We become anxious and we become more of a night person. Maybe we can't sleep. Some insomnia usually happens. And then the next kind of symptoms that usually happen are weight gain. We're seeing women who they're eating exactly like they always ate. They're still exercising like they always did. And now they're starting to put on some pounds, especially around the midsection that they just that never was a problem before. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm just not working out hard enough. I'm just not dieting hard enough. And the fact of the matter is, when your progesterone declines, a lot of times you become what's called androgen dominant, which is where your testosterone, your DHEA, which are androgens, they become more dominant in the hormone cascade. And that can cause us to have that male pattern weight gain, which is usually around the belly. Whereas as women, we usually store weight in our hips, in our butt, in our thighs, and that's the female pattern weight gain. But as we have that hormonal shift and we have less of our female hormones, less of progesterone, then of course estrogen begins to fluctuate as well. That can cause that hair loss, that weight gain, skin issues, all those types of things start to kick in. And of course, we become irritable, moody, and just unhappy.
So, if someone's low in their sex drive, kind of probably they're low in testosterone and then maybe even also a little bit low in estrogen. Would I be accurate in saying
Yeah,
that if
I
they're
mean,
low in their sex drive?
so yeah, I mean, a lot of times when we talk about sex drive, we talk about testosterone, but in women, estrogen is just as important for sex drive as testosterone is. It helps us hydrate our like moisturize our tissues. So our vaginal tissues helps with circulation. So it helps us get blood flow to our sexual organs. And estrogen is this really anti-inflammatory hormone. It really is our energy hormone as well for women. And so closely tied to libido is low estrogen and also testosterone, of course, as well. But usually in the beginning, at least in younger ages for women in the perimenopause time, a lot of times it's estrogen that's the problem. And testosterone can still be at a good level and they still might have the low sex drive. Of course, there are some women that do have that testosterone drop, especially women who do not exercise or have been exposed to some toxins in their lifetime. They can have that issue with the testosterone being low, and it definitely does help to get your testosterone levels boosted, not just for sex drive, but also for confidence, for energy, for being able to think clearly. So testosterone is super important hormone for women. A lot of times we say it's a male hormone, but it's not. It's a female hormone just as much as any of the other hormones. In fact, if you look like um, at how much hormone we actually have in our body, we actually have a higher amount of testosterone than we do estrogen. It's just estrogen is just more of it's what we think about for our female characteristics, for our breasts, for our hips, for a lot of the things that women need to have function. Estrogen is the main driver, and then the progesterone is kind of like the sidekick or the partner. Doesn't do as much as estrogen and testosterone do for the body, but it's still very, very important. And what's more important than anything is the balance of all three of these hormones. Because you can have a perfect level of testosterone and low estrogen and progesterone, and you're not going to feel good. And then you can be perfect level estrogen, but low progesterone, you're going to be miserable. So it can be, you can't just have one hormone, you have to have the three hormones balanced.
Let's talk about how often you should get your hormones checked. Let's say you get your hormones tested. The doctor says, okay, well, you need estrogen or you need testosterone, whatever you're low in. Then how long do you need to wait before you then would get them tested again? And how often would you regularly get your hormones tested to make sure that they are balanced? Because I agree with you. The number one key, 100%, what I don't care what anyone says, they all have to be in balance. And when one's off, that's when you're getting headaches and all other kinds of nightmares going on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're starting to feel off, if you're starting to suspect there's something going on, and women are pretty intuitive, they know when things aren't right. That's when you first want to start testing your hormones. I don't care if you're 30 years old, if you're 29 years old, doesn't matter. I would get my hormones tested to see where I'm at. Now, your hormone test is a snapshot in time, so it's not the be all end all. It's not, we should not treat the hormone test. We want to correlate the test results with your symptoms. When we test hormones, we also ask about 67 different symptoms of hormone decline, from estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and then also cortisol and thyroid. So we're looking at all of these scenarios and matching the test results to how the woman's actually feeling, to her symptoms, and using the combination of the two to guide our treatment. And we're never going to not give a woman hormone replacement, even if her hormones are what looks like the right level, because the right level in the ranges may not be the right level for you. So the ideal time to test your hormones is when you feel amazing in your 20s, because that's your like baseline. Nobody does that. I didn't do it. I don't know anyone who's actually done that and got their own baseline. Because how my optimal hormones are different than your optimal hormones. I might feel amazing with a lower level of estrogen and a lower level of testosterone. You might feel like crap at those levels and you might need higher. So we can't just go off what we think is normal, quote unquote. And a big caution for women who are in perimenopause and menopause: when they get their hormones tested at a conventional medicine office, they can have almost zero estrogen and progesterone, and it could say that they are in the normal range for their age. Because what's normal for someone who's 55 years old is to have hot flashes and osteoporosis and brain fog and weight gain and vaginal dryness and low libido. That is quote unquote normal for that age, but that is not optimal. That is not what we want. So you have to be careful with the conventional ranges on tests. Doesn't mean that's where you want to be. You want to be where you feel amazing. And then how often should you test? I would say on the initial test, and then you start getting on some hormones, I would probably test in about 2 to 3 months just to see where your levels are. But then I would also test any time that you're not feeling like you are balanced, because that could just indicate that something's either going on in your life. Maybe you're not absorbing, or you're not doing well on the dose or delivery method that you are taking for your hormones, and you might need to switch to something else or increase your dose or decrease your dose. So there's not like a standard for testing. Some women get on their hormones and they feel amazing and they don't bother testing anymore because they feel amazing and they don't really need to. And then some women want to test every 3 or 4 months just to make sure that everything is balanced, because maybe they're not as intuitive, or maybe they have some other health issues going on where they can't really tell the difference between whether it's their hormones or it's their thyroid or it's their autoimmune condition. In that case, I would recommend testing every few months so that you can make sure that your hormones are optimal where they need to be.
I want to talk to you guys about a couple things that I can't live without. Number one, after I eat, I'm always taking Masszymes to digest my food and HCl breakthrough. Those are the two things after I eat, especially if I ate just a tiny bit more than I wanted to. I'm always taking these, but I try to take this after each meal. This is like a non-negotiable for me. If for some reason I think that maybe I went to a restaurant, I try to avoid gluten like the plague, but I will take this Gluten Guardian by Bioptimizers. It's amazing. And use coupon code Chantel Ray 10 if you ever do it. And then every single night, without fail, if I don't take it, I don't sleep as well. This is the magnesium breakthrough. This to me is like the best product that there is. It's 7 different forms of magnesium. And if you're having trouble sleeping or not sleeping great, this is a game changer. It's the magnesium breakthrough by Bioptimizers. Use coupon code Chantel Ray 10. Let's talk about fluctuating estrogen levels and particularly how the connection ties to constipation. So, one thing I learned a while back is that I had no idea of how estrogen and constipation and your mobility works and how that's all tied together. So, I want you to talk about how estrogen plays a role in regulating bowel motility, but not only that, of how we get rid of our estrogen when it's too high through our bowels.
Yeah, so that's the loaded question. So estrogen and progesterone both have effects on our bowel movements and our digestion and how fast we break down and move food through our system. And when we want to talk about that, I also will say like estrogen has receptors on nearly every cell in your body. So it affects every system in your body, not just your digestion and your vagina and your brain. It's like everywhere, your heart, your liver, your bones, everything. So yes, for digestion, estrogen, it is a very hydrating hormone. It's a very energizing hormone. So it brings water in and it can really help with moving things along. And then progesterone can kind of slow things down. So when things are balanced, things are going to move along in the right kind of way. Now, when things are imbalanced, that can cause for some women diarrhea and then for some women constipation. So it's a good sign that if you are constipated or that you have diarrhea, maybe it is your hormones that are out of balance. The problem is when you're constipated, that can cause your estrogen to recirculate through the body. Because what happens is when our body uses our estrogen, it will then need to break it down into metabolites of estrogen. So it breaks down into its little building blocks. And those building blocks then have to be packaged up and sent off out of the body. So they're packaged up, and then in the gut, there's something called beta glucuronidase, and that helps to keep it packaged kind of, and then it goes out through your bowels, and you kind of excrete it out as you have bowel movements, and that helps your estrogen not to recirculate. Now, if you're constipated, that stays in your system, and that can cause the estrogen to recirculate through your body. And now these used estrogens aren't as beneficial as the unused fresh estrogens. And so they can cause more negative impacts and things like estrogen dominant symptoms. And so we don't really want that recycled estrogen. We want the fresh estrogen, and then we want it to get packaged up and sent off on its way. Having a imbalanced microbiome can definitely cause that because you're going to have an imbalance of that beta glucuronidase. And what happens is your body's going to package up that estrogen, and then the imbalanced gut microbiome is going to open that package back up and send it back on its way. And that can definitely cause some problems with your hormone balance and just how well you feel overall.
Yeah, so I think that is really important. It's something I just learned a couple of years ago, but that estrogen is in fact eliminated from the body through your digestive tract. So if somebody has high estrogen dominance, right, which a lot of people, if you're struggling with keeping weight on, you might have high estrogen dominance. And if you have frequent constipation and a lack of digestive enzymes, that could be a rise in estrogen levels. And
Yes.
if you've got that high estrogen, you might be struggling with weight loss. So the two of
Absolutely. And
them,
then, that's one part of it. And then, the packaging part that happens around the liver. And if you don't have certain nutrients to help you package it up, that can cause it to have that recirculation as well. So we usually recommend things like cruciferous vegetables or supplementing with a supplement called DIM, DIM. And what that does is that helps to facilitate that packaging of the estrogen so it can get on its way. So you're not going to recycle it as much because you have the step one is the packaging, the step two is something get the send off. And so there we have to make sure both steps are working in order to have the proper estrogen detox going on.
Yeah, if you think you do have high estrogen dominance, then I agree with you. I think DIM is kind of that magic supplement solution to kind of reduce it. But you just have to be careful with it because, again, what you said in the very beginning, what people need to do is that, they think, oh, I have high estrogen. So then they'll start taking a bunch of DIM and then their hormones aren't balanced. And now they're getting, migraine headaches or, whatever else. I would say 2 years ago, I had these migraine headaches and it only happened around my period. And it was either the first day or like the third or fourth day of my period. And I'm telling you, I would get a migraine headache to the point where I was throwing up. No joke. I would be literally like one time I threw up. I was so sick. I had such a bad migraine. I was on my way home. I literally threw up in the car. I have a picture of it with it all over
You have
myself.
a picture of it?
Yeah, I literally took a picture. You know why? Because I had an important call that I had to do. And I'm just and I literally was like on a call with someone. And then I was like, I'm going to have to hang up. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to throw up. And then I literally took a picture of the throw up for my car. Like, see, I wasn't lying. I literally ended up throwing up because I had such a bad migraine. And the only thing that helped for me was I had to get on progesterone and I had to test my hormones and see, but progesterone is actually what stopped those migraine headaches.
Progesterone is actually well known for helping with migraines and also traumatic brain injury. So some women who suffer from migraines will actually take progesterone when that migraine hits, and they can use it as almost like a ibuprofen for nature's ibuprofen for migraines. But what's happening in those early days of your period, day 1, 2, 3, your hormones are actually super, super low at that point, and they haven't begun to build back up. And so you might be just having that crash where your hormones, like your progesterone, might have been way lower than your estrogen. Your estrogen might have still been a little built up. And so it's really interesting because some women will get migraines from low estrogen and some women will get migraines from low progesterone. And so it really is that balance. And when we talk about estrogen dominance, it's important to know it's not just too high estrogen that causes estrogen dominance. It's also normal estrogen and too low progesterone that can cause estrogen dominance as well. All it means is that estrogen is higher in relation to the progesterone. So you could be making the perfect amount of estrogen, not recycling it. You could have amazing bowel movements, but you're not making enough progesterone, and that can cause that estrogen dominance. And the main reason why we don't make enough progesterone is stress, because cortisol is our stress hormone. It's made out of the same raw materials, cholesterol, as our other hormones, specifically progesterone. So usually you kind of sacrifice your sex hormones for your stress hormones a lot of times. So especially for younger women, stress can be an issue. And then also if we're taking statin drugs to lower cholesterol, that's a big issue because cholesterol is what our hormones are made out of. So that's the first step in the pathway. You need to have cholesterol in order to have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So we see a lot of women being put on statin medications and their hormones are just in the tank. And that's a really big disservice, especially since statin medications were never tested on women and not proven to even help with cholesterol issues.
I hate blow drying my hair. That's why I use a non-toxic family dry shampoo.
I haven't washed my hair in over a week. It's not greasy, all from the dry shampoo. Dry shampoo, almost all of them out there are so toxic. It's been determined that dry shampoo contains benzene in it, and it's actually a known carcinogen linked to increased risk of cancer. So I decided to create my own. this stuff is the best. A lot of people think my hair has extensions in it because they think, oh, it's very long and very thick. No, this is my natural hair and it takes a really long time to wash. And you don't want to wash your hair every single day. It's not even good for your hair. I love dry shampoo, and the only one out there is one that I made myself, and it just has a couple of ingredients. It's all natural. You're going to love it. Go to nontoxicfamily.com, use coupon code Chantel Ray, and get a huge discount. Yeah, let's talk about that because my cholesterol is always very, very high. And so when I go to the doctor, a regular doctor, they're always like, well, your cholesterol's high, but your good cholesterol is also really high. And I think this is a very controversial topic because I think that, again, back to the normal levels of what, let's say, a functional medicine doctor or a regular doctor would be, I would say 100%. And obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I'm totally against statins. And I would say that a lot of these people are getting advice that their cholesterol is too high and they don't need to be on the numbers they're giving, that the cholesterol is too high. It's not a problem like they're saying. So what's your opinion on that?
So first of all, there's no such thing as good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. We have HDL and LDL. They both have really important roles in the body. And LDL, which we call the bad cholesterol, that's the one that makes our hormones mostly. So when we look at cholesterol, I do not care what your cholesterol numbers are. I don't care what your HDL number is or your LDL number. What I care about is the particle size and whether they're sticky or smooth, whether they're big and fluffy or small and sticky. Small and sticky is what causes issues in the body. It's what causes clogging of the arteries. It's what causes cardiovascular events. Big fluffy cholesterol is beautiful because do you know what cholesterol does? Like what it's really the purpose in the body? The purpose of cholesterol in the body, it's made by your liver. So your body makes it on purpose. And what it does is it actually is a little like nature's Band-Aid for inflammation. So if you have inflammation, especially in your blood vessels, there's a little I don't know, a little scratch in your blood vessel, it's inflamed. Cholesterol comes and kind of puts a little like Band-Aid on top. And so that's kind of what's happening. That's why your body's making more cholesterol to respond to inflammation and also to make your hormones. And so we don't really want to stop that. We only need to stop it if your body is making small, dense, sticky cholesterol that is kind of like globbing things up and causing problems. And so whenever my mother-in-law, anyone I know in my family or any of my patients, they come to me and say, oh, my doctor said my cholesterol is high. I said, no problem. What we're going to do is we're going to run a particle size test and see if you have small and sticky or big and fluffy. If you have big and fluffy, you're good. Don't even worry about it. Your cholesterol can be any number you want it to be. There's no bad number. There's no bad cholesterol. The bad cholesterol is the sticky small particles. And so if that's the case, then we want to implement some anti-inflammatory lifestyle measures. And there's lots of things we can do. Statins do not work for women specifically. So there's really no need to be on a statin, you're just going to get side effects. And so we need to address the root cause, which is the inflammation and the liver. And once we do that, then the cholesterol won't be an issue.
Let's talk about hormone levels. And you had kind of mentioned this earlier, but hormone levels, are a lot of times the regular doctor versus a functional medicine doctor, they'll tell you your levels are okay when they're not, as we said. And obviously, like if someone's premenopausal or postmenopausal, or if they're in their follicular phase or ovulatory phase, obviously it's just all over the map. But let's just pick one. Let's just pretend someone is postmenopausal. They're postmenopausal. What would you say is the differences between what you recommend versus like maybe a regular doctor that I'm trying to phrase it right, but you know what I mean?
Professor doctor, first of all, a woman will go into her doctor's office with all the symptoms of hormone deficiency. And the doctor will say, well, you're just getting older. That's just how life is. Or they'll say, oh, that sounds depressing. Here's an antidepressant. And they don't even test women's hormones. What's the point in testing women's hormones? You're in menopause, of course your hormones are low. That's how they're supposed to be. That's what women hear all the time. That's why 100% of women experience menopause hormone decline and symptoms that go along with it. However, less than 20% of women are offered any help for their hormones, and they usually have to go to 5 or 6 appointments before they're even offered to talk about their hormones. Once they do, they'll get that test. They'll test their estrogen, progesterone, maybe their testosterone. And if they have almost 0 numbers, it'll show that it's normal for their age, which is crazy. And doctors say, oh, your hormones are fine, normal for your age. Just take this antidepressant. And in our office, we're trying to get you optimal. I don't care if you're 60 or 70 or 90. You want to feel good. You want to function well. You want your skin to be elastic. You want your vaginal tissues to be hydrated. You don't want to have urinary tract infections. You want strong bones. You want a strong heart. You want to avoid Alzheimer's and dementia. You want to not have unnecessary weight gain. The list goes on and on and on. And so normal for a woman, what's normal for a 55-year-old woman, actually, if you go back 200 years ago, is that you'd be probably dead because we didn't live that long. Our ancestors only lived to like 55, 60. So there wasn't really any need for the treatment of menopause because women didn't really live that long. But now we're living to 85, 90. And so that's
My
more than
grandmother
half
lived
of
to 102.
yeah. But that's more than the average life expectancy
Yeah.
in this day and age is about 80 something years old for women. That means if you start perimenopause 10 years before menopause, average age of menopause is 51. So let's say you start perimenopause 41, that's average. That means some women are going to start in their 30s. That means more than half your life is spent in this hormone deficient state if you do not get help. That means your bones are deteriorating, your skin is deteriorating, your heart's deteriorating, your brain's deteriorating. Every cell in your body is suffering because it's not getting that hormones that it needs. So we want you to be optimal. So we're going to usually start women, depending on their intake, like we're going to ask you a lot of questions. We're going to know if you're usually sensitive to things. We're going to know if you usually like don't feel anything when you take supplements. And so we're going to like, some people need to go slow. Some people will go a little faster with, but we're going to give you a starting dose and we're going to see how you feel. And then we will adjust as needed till you start feeling great. We're also not going to ignore the fact that drinking water, exercising, getting sleep, stress reduction, eating anti-inflammatory foods, those are all important. Those are all necessary for having optimal balance. So you can't just take hormones and be like, I'm going to feel amazing. This doesn't usually happen. If that was true, then every 22-year-old girl would be like the picture of health. But if you're not eating well, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're doing a lot of things that are not healthy, your hormones aren't going to be in the best shape. And so we definitely educate on diet, lifestyle, stress reduction, all the foundations of a healthy life. And then those hormones are going to help you have the wherewithal to even think about what you're putting in your body or cooking something or going to the gym. Because I tell you, most women, when their hormones are in the tank, they do not have the energy. They don't have the ability to even plan a meal because everything is just, everything sucks. And so we don't want
This
that.
is my last question. What I love about you is you're all about the natural, holistic solution for all these symptoms, right? Whether it's weight gain or brain fog or insomnia, like you are all about the getting to the root cause. As far as energy, and I know they all have to be balanced, right? But if someone was saying they had a lot of brain fog and they don't have energy, what would you say is probably the hormone that they were missing if they're lacking the energy and the brain fog?
Going to be a tie between thyroid and estrogen because thyroid hormone is really important for energy and also your brain, but then estrogen also important for energy in your brain. So it's kind of a tie. I have to ask some more questions. Like, do you have
Mhm.
cold hands and feet? Are you starting to gain weight? You know, then it might lead me. Is your hair starting to fall out? Are you like losing your eyebrows? Is your skin really dry? Are you constipated? That might lead me more to thyroid. And then it might be like hot flashes, low libido, vaginal dryness, and things like that that might lead me more to estrogen. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a tie. And that's the confusing part. There's a lot of overlapping symptoms of different hormone deficiencies. And that's why having a practitioner that's going to ask you a lot of questions and really work with you and make sure that you feel supported is probably the most important thing.
And what I love about you so much is you are so passionate about getting women back to their balanced state with their hormones, because that is the key. I just cannot emphasize that enough. You've got to get to that balanced state. So tell listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Awesome. Yeah. So balance is our natural state, right? We just need to get out of the way and give our body what it needs. So balance is our natural state. And you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Michelle Sands, or you can find me at glownaturalwellness.com. That's our website. We have lots of free resources and I just love connecting. So if you find me on social, I answer every message.
Yeah, and you guys, all of the things that she has, just the different natural holistic things, they're non-GMO, all natural holistic ingredients. And so we're just so grateful for your time today, Dr. Michelle. Hopefully you'll come back on because we have so many more questions. I have a bunch of listener questions that we
Oh,
came.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, next time we'll have you come
talking to
back.
women.
Yes, if you guys have a question that you want to have answered at any of our guests, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. We love to answer your questions. We'll have Dr. Michelle back and we'll answer all the questions that you have. And you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.